What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you like this video. This is going to be the secret of Chippendales Season 1, Episode 3. So the secrets of the Chippendale murder. So we left off in the last episode. We found out that Nick had been killed. Now Nick is he's the co-founder. Well, no, see, I'm about to tell a lie. He's not the co-founder. Hold on, let me get to my notes, y'all. Let me get to my notes. He's not the co-founder. That's part of the problem. Part of the problem is that Steve Banerjee, who was the creator of Chippendales, was being pushed to the back because Nick had come in, Talino, I believe it is, had come in and had taken over, and he was the front man. He was very charismatic, and he spoke to the media, and he did interviews, and Steve, who was an immigrant, who, English wasn't his first language, he had a stutter. He was not as anxious to be in front of the camera, but he was having a problem with feeling like he was being pushed to the back and people were not acknowledging, or in some cases just didn't even know who he was. Also, there was this really bad business deal that he had made it. He had made the business deal where he signed over the touring rights for Chippendales. He still owned Chippendales. He still made his money off of the clubs and off of the merchandising, but Nick started a touring part of it and was making money hand over fist. Money hand over fist. And so that's where we left off. Now, Nick is murdered in his office in New York, and now the question is, who did it? It becomes a whole whodunit. So anybody who watches, true crime, that the first people that they look at the family, right? First people they look at the family. So the first people they looked at was his brother-in-law, who had just bought a life insurance policy. But, the police did further, they investigated, they asked the right questions of the right people, and they realized, no, he really did love his brother. The life insurance policy that he had taken out, that's not what it was about. He didn't do anything. Nick Denoya, sorry. He didn't do anything wrong, right? So they cleared his brother. They did question Steve Banerjee, but Steve, told them, hey, I wasn't there. I wasn't even in New York at the time, and they, went on to the next set of people. Then we found out that Nick was sort of leading, I'm not going to say it was a double life, because, back then in the 70s and the 80s, I'm not going to say it was necessarily a double life. I'm just going to say he didn't come out the closet. Like, he just didn't make his private life public. So we found out he had a boyfriend. Now, his boyfriend, there was a little love triangle going there, right? So his boyfriend that he was with when he died, what happened was, the police will show up at the funeral when there's a murder to see if the person comes back or anything like that. And they did have a sketch. They had a sketch of the suspect. So they were there. They were looking for pictures. They were looking for maybe, the suspect maybe showing up to the scene of the crime or what have you. And they saw somebody there that did look a little, a little suspicious. And what ended up happening was, so here was the love triangle. So Nick was here, and Nick met and started dating his boyfriend. Well, the problem was the boyfriend already had a boyfriend, and Nick's boyfriend didn't really end things well with that boyfriend, which made him really bitter towards the situation. I think that's kind of what we know, Let me turn my ring off. People do that. Unfortunately, people, they get bitter, bad breakups or whatever. And so this guy matched the sketch. When they showed the sketch and they showed him, he definitely looked like it could be him. What made it even more interesting is that both of these men's names were David, right? So the police go to question David Schwim is his name. They go to question him. They take him in for questioning, and he is like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't kill anybody. Yeah, I wasn't crazy about this dude. I ain't like how things went down, but I did not kill him. And he was a serious suspect for a minute. The police really, thought he was a suspect for a minute. Another theory was the mob. Nick had stiffed the mob. He had ran out on the mob on this deal in New York that had kind of gone bad, but quite, crazy as it might sound, the mob was pretty much cleared, the police felt like he didn't do it. And so the case sort of went cold after that. You know, they didn't really have any viable suspects. They went after who they thought it could be, but they didn't really have any viable suspects. So Steve, in the meantime, has stepped into the role of sole owner, proprietor, and everything else. The show is making money hand over fist. Now they have expanded to Europe. They're touring in London. They're touring in, France, and they said that Steve is flying in on private jets and taking away bags full of cash, like bags and bags of cash. And it's rumored that he has money, you know, in Swiss bank accounts, and you know, he's just living a good life. You know, he's living the good life, right? And so they're overseas now. They're touring, and you know, everything is going well. The show is going great. But then, you know, just like anything that's successful, you start having, imitators, right? So now they have these imitators, they have these reviews, they have these all-male reviews, these all-male strip shows, because it's making money, it's successful, and that's what happens. Like what they say, imitation is the best form of flattery, or something to that effect. I'm sure I messed that up. But with that being said, they have this one group called Adonis, right? And Adonis is like their biggest rival over in Europe. It's their biggest rival. And Steve is losing it. Steve is really upset about the fact that there's somebody that is trying to come in and take any part of his money, any part of his audience, any part of his revenue. And he's really upset about it. And people are telling him, listen, you're good. Like, you're making money hand over fist. Like, why are you worried about it? Like, it's one little review that might get a little bit of change, but they're not gonna chip away at the empire that Chippendales has built. But he don't want to hear it. He is not happy about it. Now, while this is going on, the police, because at this point the murder is a cold case. It's been a couple of years and it's a cold case at this point. They don't have any suspects. They don't have any direction. But then this guy named Strawberry walks into the FBI office and says, I got a story to tell you. Now, let me tell you about Mr. Strawberry. Now, Strawberry, he got his nickname because he used to work out in construction, and he would get sunburned, and somebody made a comment that he looked like a strawberry, and the name stuck, or whatever. He went to the FBI and told them the story of somebody paying him to kill some dancers over in Europe with cyanide, with a cyanide syringe. So he tells the story. He says, the guy, that he knew, he said, listen, I got a job for you if you're interested, he said, we need you to go overseas, and, we have this male review called Adonis, and we need to kill him. And we want to kill him with this cyanide, right? And it was a ridiculous idea even to begin with, because it's like, how many people can you kill at one time with a syringe? You have two hands at the most. You get two people, but you have to, you want to kill this whole review of men with cyanide. But he agrees to do it. He gets on a plane. He flies over to London. He sort of scopes out the joint. He sort of figures it all out, and then he realizes, I ain't no killer. This is not me. I ain't trying to do it. What if I get caught? And he backs out. He said he washes the cyanide. Because, back in those days, back in the 80s, back in the 70s and 80s, you could pretty much get on a plane with damn near anything. So he went over there with the cyanide. I mean, I remember hearing stories about drug lords back in the 80s who were literally flying on planes with bricks of, cocaine and flying back with stacks of money and never had a problem. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. So he gets rid of the cyanide. He said he rinses it down the the drain, and then he comes on back and he tells his boy, he said, listen, I couldn't do it. Like, I'm not no killer. Like, I couldn't do it. And he said, oh no, Steve is going to be angry. Well, come to find out, Steve is the one that was paying him. I think he was going to pay him $20,000. That was paying him to carry out this hit. And that's when he decided to go to the FBI. Well, now the FBI is going, wait a minute. Steve, the same Steve whose business partner was killed, and now he's trying to set up this other. And then they make a connection, because what they end up doing is they get Strawberry to set his boy up on a wire. They get him put on a wire, and they get him admitting to giving him the cyanide and giving him the job. So then they can execute a search warrant. And once they execute the search warrant on, I believe his name was Rick. I'm sorry I didn't write his name down. But then once they execute the search warrant on Rick's place, then they realize, wait a minute. Some things are starting to click. And one of the guns that they found is actually the same caliber as the gun that killed Nick. It's getting hot in here. That's pretty much where this episode ended, though, you guys. Y'all let me know, and we will pick it up next week. I'll talk to y'all later.